I thank you all of you for joining me in this webinar session. I'm glad that you made this decision to learn something new today. Thank you very much for joining. The intention today is to give basics of water contaminants. It's not a technical discussion, so it's generally a basic introduction of water contaminants available in water. And when you get your water tested, what should you infer from your water report? I thought I'll discuss on that. So I'll start with the basic discussion on municipal water quality, borewell water quality, STP treated water quality. These are the points which I would like to discuss. Um, I'll start with uh, the next slide. We can see normally when we say water quality, people generally talk about TDS, total dissolved salts in the water. So if you have your water purifier person who has come for installation, he generally brings a meter with him. So they dip that inside the water and say your TDS is so much, 550, whatever it is. So that is only a measurement of total dissolved salts in the water. It is not hardness. So these meters have electrodes. So it passes electricity and measures the total mineral content in the water, not just the hardness, all minerals together. So basically TDS is higher than the hardness. So TDS is total dissolved salts in the water. So today we will discuss on total dissolved salts and these parameters which I have listed below. The image on the left hand side, you can see a bluish color water. Can you imagine what is the TDS of the water? The TDS of that water is 480. It is still below the limits of government drinking water standards. But there is other content in the water. The image which I have put indicates that TDS is not just the only parameter which will tell you the water is good for drinking. There are other parameters which contributes to other different kinds of contaminants in the water. So it is very necessary for us to get the full water tested before concluding that the water is good for drinking, not good for drinking. The next parameter, if you see here, is pH of the water. So the pH of the water decides the acidity of the water. So if the value of pH is less than 7, it's acidic. If the value of pH is more than 7, it's alkaline. So government norm 6.5 to 8.5, it's okay to above 6 is okay to drink. So be having higher pH water, the government recommended standards is the hardness of the water is again important parameters. People have lots of discussion on hardness of the water. Hardness cause hair fall, scaling in the water. Hardness is predominantly because of few parameters in the water like calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate in the water. So I will discuss more about hardness in detail in the water report, which we'll discuss in further slides. Iron in the water is also an important parameter. If you have iron in your water, the water will be little brownish and yellowish in color. So there are different kinds of iron, hemi-iron, dissolved iron. So if there is iron eating bacteria in the water, it eats up the iron, and that is organic iron in the water. So iron, for some people, when they have iron, when they catch the water, it looks clear. After sometimes it becomes yellowish in color. That's because iron gets oxidized and it's trying to precipitate it. You will have color in the water, yellowish color. The limit says zero point 0.3 ppm is the limit, so anything more than 0.3 you will have color in the water. Nitrate and fluoride are other components which we will mention on. So what are the contaminants? This will give you an idea of apart from TDS, what other contaminants are possible. For example, if we take there is silica. So silica can be reactive or colloidal silica. Both types of silica is possible. In Sarjapur Road, we have few cases of high silica in the water and hardness. HSR layout, we have ammonia and hydrogen sulfide in the borewell water. In Henno region, we have noticed high iron in the water, so it is yellowish color water and high hardness. So apart from TDS, these are other contaminants which I'm talking about. In Pina area, we have chromium salts in few areas in Pina. So chromium 6 is dangerous, very necessary to get your. Harohalli has a few fluoride issue. So there is fluoride in water, and towards if you go to red and nitrate in the water. Basveshwar Nagar has high nitrate. So in 2008, when we did the testing of nitrates in Basveshwar Nagar, it was between 20 and 30. I don't remember the exact value, but the limit, government standard limit, is 45 ppm, 45 milligrams per liter. In 2008, it was between 20 and 30 ppm of nitrate. In 4 months, 4 months ago, when we measured the nitrate in one government standard, look clear, but it can have high nitrate in the water. So nitrate can cause severe issues. There is a syndrome called blue baby syndrome. So nitrate level affects the oxygen carrying capacity of blood to various organs. So if you have very high nitrate in the water, the blood does not carry higher oxygen to different organs. So it is very necessary to fluorescent issues. So there is a two data from a government school near Tumkur Shira Road. Two government schools, they have taken data. Higher fluoride was in the order of 4 ppm. The government says less than 1 ppm. When you have high fluoride in the water, the kids have bent bones. The bones start bending. If you see that, that's because of very high fluoride in water. So dental stains which happens, that's also because of high fluoride in water. So all these can be individually removed. There are technical ways of removing if it is above limits. So we'll see the next category, which is these are all the water reports. When you get a water tested, the water report will generally have these parameters. So this is called portability test. They will give all these 16 parameters. In this, the 14 parameters are chemical parameters and 2 parameters are biological parameters. So for these chemical parameters, if you see the first value is pH. pH, government says it has to be between 6.5 and 8.5. So in this sample, it is 7.57. It is within the limit. So pH decides the acidity of the water. Lesser the pH, it's acidic. More the pH is alkaline. Color is measured using Hazen units. Hazen units, if it's basically platinum cobalt liquid. So the clarity of the water is compared with that liquid. There is a detailed procedure. Kaveri water is generally less than 1, but in some areas we get 3, 4, up to 5 NTU, 5 Hazen units. So color needs to be less than 5. It's measurable. Odor, again, there are standards to measure odor. It needs to be agreeable. Turbidity measures the clarity of water. It is measured in naphthometric turbidity units. So it needs to be less than 1. So sometimes in Kaveri water we have higher turbidity. In borewell water, for example, in Varathur Lake, the turbidity is 88 NTU. So based on the area, based on the quality of water, the turbidity, clarity of the water changes. Total dissolved salts is the next parameter, total dissolved salts. So this is measured using the TDS, we call it, using the meter, or there are other methods to measure the salts. This is the combination of all the salts in the water, total dissolved salts. Total hardness of water is measured as calcium carbonate in the water. So calcium and magnesium, these are calcium magnesium ions. Alkalinity as CaCO3, this is very important. This decides how much acid is required to neutralize your water. Basically, this is a very important parameter. Together with chlorides and sulfates, we have other ratios like CSMR ratio, chloride sulfate mass ratio. And we have scale, water causes more scales or more corrosion. All these is decided based on these parameters. Chlorides and sulfates, generally people ask, is it very important to have chlorides and sulfates measured? Yes, it is very important because of these parameters. Say there is a ratio called CSMR ratio, lead leaching of lead, galvanic gates and sulfates, we calculate Larson ratio along with carbonates. So if that value is above 0.3, it will cause iron and metallic corrosion. So along with pH, chlorides and sulfate is also important. Nitrate, as I said, needs to be measured. It can cause severe problems in terms of immunity. Then comes the iron and fluoride. So iron also needs to be tested. So It needs to be less than 0.3 generally. Above 0.3, you will have colored water. Government says desirable limit is less than 1 NTU and there is no relaxation. Fluoride again needs to be less than 1 ppm. I discussed about fluoride contamination a little earlier. So apart from these mineral parameters, we have to also test the microbiological parameters like E. coli and coliforms. These should not be present in the water for drinking water consumption. So next, let's move on to the STP treated water report. So people have asked, in people living in apartment, they have STP treated water. So these are the parameter which needs to be met with STP treated water. Again, pH is should be 6.5 to 9. COD is chemical oxygen demand, meaning the demand of the water for oxygen. So how much oxygen is consumed to chemically treat the water is what is chemical oxygen demand. And the BOD is biological oxygen demand, which is by aeration or by organic method, how much oxygen gets consumed. So they take 3 days in the laboratory to measure these parameters. So both these parameters are very important. The limits for COD is 50 and BOD is less than 10. Suspended particles, again, a big parameter, it should be less than 20. Generally, most of the STP are able to, with the sand and carbon filter, they're able to bring the suspended parameters down, total suspended solids down. Nitrogen and total nitrogen was is recent introduction. People never used to not measure these two, but now it is required to measure the ammoniacal nitrogen and total nitrogen in the water. It needs to be less than 5. Ammoniacal nitrogen, total nitrogen needs to be less than 10. See, people have started using STP treated water for construction. So these parameters play an important role. So the STP treated water should meet these parameters. Again, fecal coliforms is the coliforms which is generated in the sewage. So this also needs to be less than 1. So these are the parameters generally considered for STP treated water contaminants. Now let's go to construction water contaminants. So for construction water, these are the 5 parameters which needs to be measured. First, construction alkalinity. There are 2 types of alkalinity, M alkalinity and P alkalinity. These needs to be measured. pH, again, we need suspended solids, chlorides and sulfides. So this CSMR ratio is very important. Chloride sulfide mass ratio is very important. If you see the picture here, the cement does not bond to the steel surface. Probably the CSMR ratio is higher, or other contaminants are there in the water during construction. The iron, before 2005, people were saying for concrete mixing, you need iron to be less than 1 ppm. But after 2005, people, there is a standard saying less than 1 for curing. When you cure the constructed, your iron level should be less than 1. However, when you have higher iron, there is patches left on the cement surface when you do curing. So however, for construction, there are too many other parameters also needs to be constructed. So lots of industries, builders have started buying STP treated water for construction. So when you buy that water, please get the water tested rather than blindly using. We have done a survey when we visited Telangana, few construction sites. So they were using STP treated water. So when they spray that water, there was greenish color patch left after curing. So, and the water was hygiene of the health workers working there, and the easy spread of contaminants. And together with this greenish patch, looks like a permanent patch onto the cement floor. So you will carefully need to assess the water quality before using that. So once you get it tested, have a proper treatment, then you can easily use it for construction purpose. So I'll move to the next. So we have had few questions already coming in on WhatsApp and messages. So I would try to address these 6 questions. The first question, municipal and borewell water. So for municipal and borewell water, TDS less than 500, should I get the water tested? So as I showed in the first slide, so the TDS can be less than 500, but there can be other contaminants in the water. So it is best to get the water tested. So next question, chlorine smelling Kaveri water, is it okay? So chlorine and chloramine, there is a huge topic and discussion going on that aspect. So when government sends water, if you have chlorine smelling, generally it could be more than 0.2 ppm of free chlorine. So then you get the smell in the Kaveri water. So if you have a water purifier with activated carbon filter, it will remove that chlorine. So it is okay if you have an activated carbon to consume after passing it through a carbon filter. if you have heavy smell, then it is on a central level. It is better to have a carbon filter to remove the chlorine from the water. Chlorine and chloramine, again, it's a detailed topic to discuss. So chlorine leads to something called THM, trihalomethane, so which is carcinogenic. So people start adopting chlorine dioxide or chloramine treatment. Next question, smell in my water, what could be the contaminant? So the smell in the water could be because of ammonia. So when you get your water tested, ammonia and hydrogen sulfide needs to be tested. So based on the amount of ammonia, we'll be able to decide the type of treatment. So generally ammonia, again, NH4 plus or NH3, different types of ammonia are there. So when you get the ammonia tested, we'll be able to understand how to remove that smell from the water. What parameters can cause scaling and corrosion in my fixture? See, scaling and corrosion are two entirely different topics. Scaling is because of salts getting deposited. Corrosion is because of leaching of your metal surface by oxidation of your metal surface. Scaling can be because of salts, calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate, other salts in the water. Corrosion could be because of pH, chloride, sulfate, CSMR ratio, and LR ratio. So once you have your report, we should be able to ascertain whether it's scaling can happen or corrosion can happen. The next question is practicality of removing all contaminants in water for apartment complex. So in an apartment complex, if you have to do a central level treatment, I understand it's not practical to treat all the parameters inside. However, when you get a report, you'll be able to ascertain the high values and you'll be able to address the predominant issues in the water. So for example, nitrate, iron, hardness, all these can be treated using a water treatment plant. So if you have a water treatment plant, if you're addressing these, then central level is possible. But removing all contaminants, having an industrial RO system, only if there is no other option. If the entire water management is planned, only then you can go for a full-fledged industrial high recovery RO systems for treatment. But generally, it's not practical to have a central system with RO. Kaveri water treatment for houses, what type of treatment? So generally, Kaveri water in the city areas, Malleshwaram in city areas does not require huge treatment. Basic filters are sufficient. But in areas where there is higher turbidity, for example, Kaveri water at the river, the TDS is around 30-40 ppm. And when it gets to Malleshwaram area, it's around 120-130 ppm. And when it gets to HSR area, it's around 200. And one of my friend has put it in chat box that in Namakkal, it's 350 ppm. So the value of the river water which you get determines whether you need treatment. Predominantly in the city areas in Bangalore, you might not need large treatment, but if your turbidity is higher, you have something called synoptilolite based treatment, basic treatment for municipal water. And if you have higher contaminants in different areas, based on the water quality, we have to design a treatment for that. So let's move to the next line. What have we learned so far? So first point, TDS alone does not decide the water quality. There are other parameters which also decides the water quality. TDS and hardness are entirely different. Hardness is a subset generally of a TDS. Hardness is presence of calcium carbonate. Scaling and corrosion are entirely different. If you have salt deposit, it's scaling. Corrosion is leaching of your pipes, then that's corrosion. pH alone does not decide corrosion. So that also we learned. Very important to have water tested for construction use. That also we learned. We have to get the water tested before we use that water for even construction. STP treated water parameters to be noted before disposing because of the new norms which are there. We need to get the water tested for these parameters to know what are the contaminants in the water. So I would like to conclude saying that don't believe in pseudoscience, get your conclusion technically validated. See, we have lots of questions being asked on, can I drink this water? My TDS is low, I'll start using it. I have been using this water for 20 years, can I use it? Water is changing, water quality and contaminants are changing drastically. So we are not trying to push any components here. We are just advising you to get the water tested. We don't test the water, give it to an NABL certified laboratory to get your water tested. Without testing the water, you cannot concretely say, without testing your blood, you cannot concretely say what is the problem. Get your water tested, understand the water, and then decide what equipments you need to go. So I'll be now taking few questions. If you have questions, please ask.
Thank you, Vikas. I have a couple of questions in the chat box. I'll ask one after the other. So the first question is from Mr. Partha from Brigade Metropolis. He has a question. Which he asks is how much effective is the ozonization systems?
Okay, so ozonation systems are designed based on grams per hour. How much grams of ozone can the system give per hour? Okay. Now, when the gram per hour dosage goes above 5 grams or 7 grams per hour, we need a separate oxygen cylinder to feed in oxygen for it to convert to O3 because of improved efficiency. So, in large scale, large quantity ozone dosage generally is not viable because you have to keep adding oxygen cylinders to the ozone system. Now, for few swimming pools where the ozone grammage is less than 5 grams per hour, it takes normal air and gets ozone, so that is good. Ozone's efficiency, in fact, is much better than UV. You can store ozone treated water even up to 36 hours because it gets disinfected. In terms of technology, it's a very good technology in terms of disinfection. Also, few iron components gets oxidized. Iron, if you have iron, then iron oxide you can precipitate and filter with ozonation. For small scale, it's good. The corona discharge, which is then the ozone system, could get spoiled. So again, measurement whether it is actually giving 2 grams per hour of ozone is very important. So these measurements generally are not available for smaller scale. That is why it is not commercially moving fast. So, however, to answer your questions, ozone is effective in terms of disinfection, but because of practicality of usage in larger scale, it doesn't move faster. You need separate oxygen cylinder. For smaller scale application, it is a very good disinfectant. Hope I have answered your question. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
There is another question from Mr. Vivek. He is asking, is there a way that the usage of wastewater, increase the wastewater utilization, that is by converting it to a potable water for individual houses, given these solutions primarily cater to apartment complexes and malls?
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you, Vivek, for asking. So what is happening nowadays is this STP treated water is not being used at all. So people use 25-30% for garden. Some people mix it with fresh water and use it for flushes. So it is technically possible to use this water back. We can convert STP treated water to potable quality water. In the US, there is a norm called DPR, direct portable reuse. Namibia has been using direct portable reuse for 48 or 50 years for recycling, recovering. So to answer your question, yes, we can convert STP treated water for potable use. We are currently doing it for Orion Mall where they're using it for cooling tower. They'll be using it for cooling tower. RMJ EcoWorld is using it for cooling tower. One layout is using it for borewell recharge, indirect borewell recharge. So it is technically possible to design, and there is a huge volume of water which could be saved. But apartments have not adopted it widely because of the psychological barrier of using it for all applications. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. There is another question from Mr. Bharat from Chennai. His question is, do you have a product to test the water quality in household based on the standard parameters which you have explained?
Yeah. So for all these parameters, there are kits available to test. Okay. For example, TDS, you have this meter which can be used for testing. Hardness, there is a hardness testing kit. Iron there's kit. Chlorine there's kit. So, however, at a house level, these kits don't last. They have an expiry date. They don't last for longer. So if you have a kit, you test it today, 3 months down the line or 4 months down the line, the kit's efficiency goes down. So it is best to give the water outside to get the water tested. But to answer your question, there are kits available to measure these parameters. So, but there are now IoT based systems which are available, which can monitor all these parameters remotely. However, it is not commercially sold heavily, but I believe in the next 2-3 years it will come out where real time you'll be able to see all the data. For our equipments where we have installed, there is remote collection of data. We're able to see all the parameters, most of the parameters using in our office, and ascertain when to send people, what changes needs to be done.
Okay.
So, thank you.
So there's another question. With so many contaminants in water, should we actually consider our primitive methods of filtration or upgrade to the market available filtration system? He has a ceramic filter in his house. Should we upgrade this or continue to use the same? That's the question.
Yeah, thank you for a good question. So we always remember that stainless steel filters we used to use, it used to have ceramic filter. So nowadays what is happening is each water has different kinds of contaminants. So depending on the contaminants, we'll have to decide what filter. But generally, if it is municipal water, you don't have heavy contamination. You can go for basic filters, but if there is chlorine in the water, you won't know. So the best way to decide whether you need old system or new system is based on the water test. So if you're able to test it properly, you'll be able to decide what filter to use. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So next question is how to calculate dosing of chlorine in STP treated water and in the swimming pool. What is the formula to calculate the same?
Yeah, wonderful question actually. So the government says the chlorine level should be between 0.2 and 1 ppm of free chlorine. So now chlorine, chloramine, there is a detailed discussion, but government says between 0.2 to 1 ppm of free chlorine. Now, if you have, when I say 0.2 ppm, it is 0.2 milligrams per liter. So if you have 1 liter of water, if you want to disinfect with chlorine, then you will have to put 2 milligrams, 0.2 milligrams per liter. So that is the concentration which you have to use. There is no standard thumb rule or fixed formula. Between 0.2 ppm, 0.2 milligrams per liter to 1 milligram per liter you can use for disinfecting the water. For swimming pool also, they so when you go near swimming pool, if you get heavy smell, generally they have done a shock load of chlorine treatment. So but generally they maintain between 0.2 and 1 ppm of chlorine in the water. For STP being going out, you have to maintain above 0.2 ppm of free chlorine. So hope I have answered your question. Thank you for asking.
Okay, thanks, Vikas. There is another question. See, this is a friend of mine who asked this question. So what he has in his apartment, he has a three stages of water treatment plant as sand filter, carbon, and softener. Despite having all these three stages, he tend to see that there is a lot of color in the water, like what is it, dull in color. I think he's referring to turbidity. So what could be the problem?
Yeah. So normally for turbidity reduction, people use sand filter, normal sand filter. Sand filter does a filtration between 80 and 130 micron. Okay, and it reduces turbidity. But if there are finer particles which is contributing to the turbidity, it might not get addressed. So there is a special filter called light based filtration that needs to be used to reduce the turbidity and TSS of water.
So there is another question, Mr. This is from again a person from Chennai who asked this question. So he is saying that like they are very much dependent upon the tanker waters in Chennai as well as the bottled water. How much reliable are they to consume?
Okay, tanker water mafia is there in every city. For example, in Chennai, I think 60% is tanker water and 30% is from government. So there is problem of tanker mafia everywhere. However, tanker guys within 3 kilometer radius generally take it from the same source. So if you get the water tested once in 6 months, you'll know the parameters in the water. So once you get tested, then we can suggest the right equipment. So irrespective of tanker, water testing is mandatory to decide on the system.
Okay. Thanks, Vikas. This is another question. This is a friend of mine who asked this. So he lives in an apartment near Attibele area in Bangalore. So they have a water softening system, but in spite of this water softening system, their output water hardness still remains high only. I'm not sure whether that softening is happening or not. What could be the problem? They're not sure.
Okay, yeah, Akhil has asked this. Yeah, so what happens generally in an apartment is if they have a softener, they get to a thumb rule saying that I'll put so many kgs of salt. Generally, the thumb rule is if you have 1,000 liters softener, every 1 lakh liters they'll have to put salt. The quantity of salt is also very important. If your resin capacity is 1,000 liters, you'll have to put 180 kgs, which is 18% of the total resin capacity. So 180 kgs of salt needs to be put. So they might not have hardness reduction because they would not put salt at this regular interval. So that could be one predominant reason for them not having hardness reduction. Other reason could be, so their incoming hardness, if it is above 800, Attibele generally, if it is above 800, it becomes impractical to keep putting salt to a softener. They have to go for other solutions to reduce the hardness of the water. So these could be the two reasons where they still get the hardness. Have I answered, Akhil?
Yes, Vikas.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Is there any other questions where I can answer?
I think that's all we have. We don't have any more questions in the chat box.
Okay, sure. Thank you again, all of you, for joining in this webinar. Hope I have added some value for your half an hour. During this Corona times, it is good to learn something. So I hope I did my justice in terms of giving some value out of this webinar. Thank you very much for joining in this webinar. Thanks for